Hello dear students. Today we are starting chapter number 7 from the biology part of class 9th, and the title of the chapter is Diversity of Life. In this chapter we are going to discuss about the different living forms which are present on this earth. Living forms which are showing characteristic features like those organisms which can grow, which can reproduce, which can show the life process like transportation, nutrition, excretion, organisms which can respond to stimuli. All they are categorized as living forms. In this chapter we are going to discuss about the different forms of life which are present on this earth, and this different forms of life can be studied with the help of classification. In this chapter we are going to discuss about classification and the branch of science where we deal or where we study about classification, that is called taxonomy. So let's start our chapter. First of all, we should know that what is biodiversity. The term biodiversity is giving its meaning by the name. Bio means life and diversity means different forms. So all the different living forms which are present in a particular geographical area, that is known as biodiversity of that area. Till now in the world, the largest biodiversity hotspot is noted as Amazon rainforest. Amazon rainforest, they are showing the maximum biodiversity. Okay. Now, to study the different living forms, to study the different types of living organism on this earth, we need to group them because randomly there are millions of living organisms and we cannot study them at one point. So we need to classify them. We need to group these organisms on the basis of similar and dissimilar characteristics. And when we do the grouping of organisms on basis of their characteristics, that is called as classification. So now you are aware about classification, that classification is grouping of the different biodiversity forms on this earth. And why it is required? It is required for easy study purpose, so that we can easily study the different life forms on this earth. Okay, now when we have to group the organism, what will be the criteria, what will be the basis of that grouping, what will be the basis of that classification? And that idea comes from the first ancient Greek thinker Aristotle. In Hindi we call them Arastu. He is also known as father of biology. Aristotle was the first person who has classified the living beings on the basis of their habitat. Habitat is the place, is the region where that organism is found. So Aristotle has first classified the living forms on the basis of their habitat, and Aristotle has just classified them into simple two groups. If the organism was living in water or if the organism is living on land. So Aristotle has classified the living forms into two groups on the basis of their habitat. But this classification was very prior. It was very simple type of classification where there were so many confusions, because if we talk about habitat, there are aquatic plants also, there are aquatic animals also, and if we talk about the xerophytic or the terrestrial habitat, then also on land there are animals and plants, and we cannot group animals and plants in the same category. So that classification was not accepted for longer time. So we need the other classification methods. So other classification methods we are going to discuss now. First of all, we are going to discuss that the first classification that was based on scientific basis was about the organization of nucleus. The organism, they were classified into two types, they as prokaryotic and eukaryotic on the basis of organization of nucleus. We have studied this in the cell chapter also, that if the organism nucleus or if the cell nucleus is surrounded by the nuclear membrane, then it is more organized, and if there is more organized type of nucleus, those organisms are called eukaryotes. But in the primitive forms where the nucleus was not surrounded by the nuclear membrane, it was disorganized, then we call those organisms as prokaryotes. Now in these prokaryotes there was no nuclear membrane formation, even there is no any type of membrane formation. So in prokaryotes, membrane bound cell organelles were also absent. So the next classification, which was scientifically based, was the classification of organisms on the basis of their nuclear organization into prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Prokaryotes include the bacteria, the blue-green algae, and eukaryotes include the plants and the animal cells. Okay. Now, organisms were also classified, or we have classified organisms on the basis of number of cells making their body. If the organism body is made up of only single cell, then we call that organism as unicellular organism. Example, yes, amoeba, cyanobacteria, paramecium, they all are unicellular organism. But if the organism body is made up of more than one type of cell, more than one cell, we call it multicellular organism. So that was also a type of classification where organisms were classified on the basis of number of cells in their body. Another classification of organism was on the basis of their mode of nutrition. On the basis of mode of nutrition, the organisms were classified again into two broad groups, autotrophic organism and heterotrophic organism. Autotrophic organisms were those who were capable to prepare their food in presence of sunlight or chemicals. They can prepare their food by their own. So those organisms are called autotrophic organism, and we include in these green plants, algae which have chlorophyll pigment which can do photosynthesis. So they all can prepare their food and they are called autotrophs. Whereas the organisms which were not capable to prepare their food and they depend on other organisms for that, they were called as heterotrophic organism. Human being, animals, parasites, they all comes in heterotrophic organism. These organisms cannot prepare their food by own. Okay. Organisms were also categorized on the basis of level of organization. See, level of organization means we have discussed earlier that if the organization of the organism body is made up of one cell, then we call it unicellular, and if it is more than one cell, we called it multicellular. So this is again the cellular level of organization. On that basis we have categorized the types of organism. Beside this, beside this cellular level of organization, the organism, they were also categorized as the tissue level of organization. What type of tissue level of organization is there? Then if the tissues, they are grouped together, the organisms were classified or grouped together on the basis of organ level of organization. And if the organ level is there, then further advancement was in form of organ system level of organization. And this organ system of level of organization is mostly seen in complex multicellular organism. So this is how the advancement, the complexity of organization was categorizing the organism into different categories. Either they are of cellular level, either they are at tissue level, they are of organ level, they are of organ system level of organization. And at each level the complexity of the organism was increasing. Okay. Now, when we have classified the organism into different categories, we need to give them a specific name, and that name should be scientific, it should be universal. That means it should be accepted all over the world wide. First of all, Carolus Linnaeus was the scientist who has given the binomial nomenclature. This binomial nomenclature means scientific naming of organism. Binomial nomenclature means the scientific name will consist two parts. Bi means two. The scientific name will consist of two terms or two parts. According to Linnaeus, whenever we give scientific name to the organism, the first part of the name should be always the generic name. It should be the name of its genre. And the second part of the name should be the species name. Okay. So every scientific name has two parts. The first part is showing the name of the genre and second part is showing the name of the species. And when we have to write these scientific names, we have to follow certain rules. What are they? First thing, the scientific name, they should be in Latin language. Latin is the scientific language which is accepted worldwide. Then whenever we write the scientific name, the genus name, the first letter should be capital. When we write the genus name, its first letter should be written with capital letter, whereas the second part, species name, it should be written in small letters. Okay. So the third rule was the scientific name, they should be written in italics. They should be tilted toward right side. Or if is it not so, and if they are handwritten, the scientific names are handwritten, they should be underlined separately. Means we have to underline the genre name with the separate line and species name with the separate line. So this is about binomial nomenclature, which was given by Carolus Linnaeus first of all, and in this binomial nomenclature we have to follow certain rules. The binomial nomenclature always give the scientific name of the organism in Latin language in two parts. First part is genre, second part is species name. The generic name first letter should be always capital. Species name should be written in small letter. Either they should be italics, or if they are handwritten, generic name and species name, they should be underlined separately. Okay. I hope binomial nomenclature is clear to you. Now, this is the table which is showing you how we are going to divide the scientific name. Whenever we write any scientific name, that scientific name, they should be underlined separately. As an example, if we want to know about the name of human scientific name is Homo sapien. Homo is our genre and sapien is our species. And whenever we write this name, either it should be in italics, and the Homo, the generic name first letter H, it should be written in capital, and the species name first letter sapien, first letter S, it should be small, or the whole species name, it should be written in small letter. Similarly, there are some other examples also which are giving you the hierarchy. See, we are going to discuss about the hierarchy of classification now, where we have to give taxon, we have to give certain levels of classification. The largest group of classification, kingdom. Then animals are classified further into phylum, phylum divided into classes, classes into order, order into family, and then family is divided into genus and species. Okay, so this is the slide showing you the different scientific name of birds and human beings. Okay, now this is the first classification which was scientifically accepted. Okay, Aristotle classification was not accepted scientifically, but the first scientifically classification was given by Robert Whittaker. Okay, Robert Whittaker in 1959. His classification is known as five kingdom classification. Now you can see how this five organism are divided into five kingdoms. First of all, you can see the living organism, they were categorized as prokaryotes. All the primitive type, unicellular type of organism, they all were grouped together in a kingdom called Monera. You can see the diagram of bacteria, and above bacteria it is written Monera. So that was the first kingdom. Then we have classified eukaryotes as unicellular eukaryotes or multicellular eukaryotes. All the unicellular eukaryotes, they were grouped together in the kingdom Protista. Okay, after Monera, the next kingdom was Protista, where we have grouped all unicellular eukaryotic organisms. Algae, they all are coming in Protista. Then the multicellular eukaryotes, they were classified into three kingdoms. Later on, the third kingdom was fungi, which were heterotrophic, multicellular and eukaryotic. Plantae kingdom, which include all the autotrophic multicellular eukaryotes, and the kingdom Animalia, that includes all the eukaryotic multicellular organisms. So these were the five kingdoms which were given by R.H. Whittaker. What were the five kingdoms? Kingdom Monera, which include all the bacteria, kingdom Protista, then kingdom Fungi, kingdom Plantae, and kingdom Animalia. So let's discuss about this classification in detail now. Now this is the diagram giving you all the characteristic features of the five kingdom classification. As you can see, this is the flower diagram which was given by Whittaker only, and this is how he has arranged the five kingdoms on the basis of complexity level. As we move upward, the complexity level increases. Okay, the level of organization increases. So, at the bottom of the classification, the primitive kingdom was there, and that kingdom was King Monera. In this kingdom, all the living forms, they were prokaryotic, unicellular, either they were preparing their food with the help of chemicals called chemotrophic, or they are preparing their food with the help of chlorophyll, pigment and sunlight. So they are called autotrophic, phototrophic organism. Now, in these prokaryotic unicellular organism, motile and non-motile, both type of organism were present. And if we talk about their reproduction mode, all these organisms were reproducing asexually. That means two parents were not required for this reproduction in kingdom Monera. Next kingdom was kingdom Protista. In kingdom Protista, the organisms were eukaryotic, unicellular, or maybe they multicellular. In this kingdom Protista, the organisms, they were able to synthesize their food with the help of photosynthesis. All the organisms, they were capable to prepare their food. These organisms of kingdom Protista, they were able to reproduce sexually and asexually both. After kingdom Protista, there was kingdom Fungi. This kingdom Fungi, it includes the eukaryotic organism. In this eukaryotic organism, there is only one unicellular yeast fungi which is unicellular, and rest all fungi, they are multicellular. As we know, fungi, they all are heterotrophic. They only absorb the digested food from the surroundings. They cannot prepare their food. These fungi, they were non-motile and they were capable to reproduce sexually and asexually. Then we will talk about the kingdom Plantae and kingdom Animalia. Kingdom Plantae, we know they are the eukaryotic organism, multicellular, photosynthetic. They are capable to do photosynthesis. They were non-motile and they were reproducing sexually and asexually. Whereas the top most complex kingdom was kingdom Animalia, which include the eukaryotic multicellular organism with the heterotrophic mode of nutrition. They all were motile and they were showing sexual mode of reproduction. So this is all about the five kingdom classification. Again, this is another diagrammatic presentation of five kingdom classification and their respective characteristics. So it is again the repetition what I have explained you earlier. If you like this diagram, you can go through this or the earlier one also. Now, when we are classifying the organism, as we have discussed right now, the Whitaker has given the five kingdom classification and he has divided the living forms into five kingdoms: the kingdom Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae and Animalia. Now, when these five kingdoms, they were grouped, in these five kingdoms, when the organisms were grouped together on the basis of similarities and dissimilarities, on the basis of characteristics like cell structure, mode of nutrition, body organization, we categorize the organism into many groups and subgroups. And when we arrange these groups and subgroups, we get a scheme, we get a hierarchy, we get a sequence. And according to that, the largest, the highest, the top level of group was domains. The domains were having different kingdoms. The kingdoms were having different phylums. If we are talking about animal classification, then we will use the term phylum. But if we are talking about plant classification, then kingdoms are subdivided into divisions. Now, phylum and divisions were subdivided into classes. Classes were subdivided into orders, then orders into families, families into genus, and then genus into species. So that was the hierarchy of classification that we are going to follow. Okay. Now here you can see the arrangement. First of all, we have to follow the classification which was traditional. According to that classification, traditional classification, it was two kingdom classification given by Linnaeus. In that classification, the living forms were categorized into plant kingdom and animal kingdom. This two kingdom classification was given by Linnaeus. Later on, in 1866, Haeckel was the scientist who has given the three kingdom classification. Now, what he has done? Haeckel has divided the plant kingdom into Protista and Plantae. Protista were the microorganisms which were smaller in size. Plants were visible with the naked eyes, and kingdom Animalia same, which were not capable to prepare their food. So that was the three kingdom classification given by Haeckel. After him, in 1959, Whitaker, he has given the five kingdom classification. Okay. Now, after this five kingdom classification, Woos, Kendler and Wallace in 1990, they have divided they have further divided the kingdoms into domains. Now, what were the domains? There were three domains actually. According to that, the kingdom Monera was consisting of two domains, and these two domains were the domain Bacteria and domain Archaebacteria. See, as we have discussed earlier, the kingdom Monera was containing the bacteria. So those bacteria which were of ancient time, they were categorized in the domain of Archaebacteria, and the present type of bacteria, they were categorized as eubacteria, and they both were under the prokaryotes, they both were under the kingdom Monera. Whereas the rest four kingdoms of Whitaker, kingdom Protista, fungi, plantae, animalia, they were categorized under the domain Eukarya. So this three domain classification was given by Woos, Kendler and Wallace. Okay, so first of all we are going to discuss about the kingdom Monera. Kingdom Monera, they are prokaryotes, they are not having nuclear membrane, not having membrane bound cell organelles, their mode of nutrition is autotrophic, and sometimes they prepare their food directly with the help of chemicals. Okay, in this we only include the unicellular organism, and you can see here in the picture also we have included the blue green algae, cyanobacteria, and the nostoc. We have included them in the Monera. The next kingdom was Protista, which was eukaryotic but unicellular. These organisms were autotrophic, sometimes heterotrophic also. Here we have given the examples of Paramecium and Euglena. The third kingdom was kingdom fungi. These organisms, they were they were heterotrophic, which have the cell wall around them, and the cell wall composition of this kingdom fungi was specifically made up of chitin. Most of the fungi were unicellular, and sometimes they were multicellular also. These fungi, they were showing saprophytic or parasitic mode of nutrition. That means either they are taking food, they are absorbing food from the living host, or saprophytic, which were absorbing or taking nutrition from the dead and decayed material. Sometimes these fungi, they were also showing symbiotic association with some plant roots or some organism. So that is symbiotic association. So that is about fungi. Examples are given: Aspergillus, Penicillium and Agaricus, or we also called it mushroom. Kingdom Plantae, they were multicellular, they were eukaryotic, autotrophic, and on the presence of chlorophyll pigment, they were capable to prepare their food by their own. Cell wall was present in this kingdom, and the cell wall was made up of cellulose. Okay, we have to discuss about plant kingdom in detail. We will discuss about this flowchart also. Okay, so the kingdom fungi was divided into Thallophyta. Thallophyta, there is the division where the organism body was not differentiated into root, stem and leaf. They have simple thallus bag-like structure. All these Thallophyta, they are commonly known as algae, and they were either aquatic or they always found near to the water bodies. Here are some examples mentioned: Spirogyra, Chara, Volvox, which are shown in the diagrams also. Next division of kingdom Plantae are bryophytes. These bryophytes, they are also called amphibians of the plant kingdom, because these plants, they cannot complete their life cycle. They cannot complete the process of fertilization without water. That's why they are called amphibians of the plant kingdom. Now in these bryophytes, the body is differentiated into stem and leaf-like structure. Vascular bundles are still not developed, xylem phloem is still not developed, but some rhizoid-like structure, root-like structure are present at the base, which help in absorbing and transporting water, minerals and food. Here I have shown you the examples with the pictures: Rixia, Markensia, mosses, they all are the examples of bryophytes. Now pteridophytes. Pteridophytes are called the first land plants. These are the plants whose plant body was differentiated into root, stem and leaf. But still the vascular system was not completely developed. It is primitive type, and that primitive type of vascular system is known as stellar system. These plants, they do not have flowers on them, and they do not bear seeds. Because they do not have seeds, they do not have flowers, that's why we categorize them as cryptogames. The fertilization is always hidden within these plants. These plants, they are showing primary types of roots which are replaced by the adventitious roots later on. Now, here in these plants, the leaves were very scaly, or they are without the petiole, without the stalk. As you can see here in the diagram of fern, there is no stalk at the bottom of the leaf. Sometimes these leaves, they are of small and large size, which are known as microphyls and macrophyls, which will bear spores which help in reproduction. Okay, in these plants, vascular system is not completely developed. Okay, now xylem is only containing tracheids in them. Rest of the vessels, xylem parenchyma, xylem fiber are absent. Sieve, in the phloem only sieve cells were there, no companion cells, no phloem parenchyma, no phloem fibers. Okay, even secondary growth or cambium was not seen in these plants. So that were the first land plants which have started evolving from aquatic habitat towards land habitat. Then in the plants we have the division gymnosperm. These gymnosperms, these are the plants which have seeds but they do not flower. They are non-flowering plants. If the flower will not be there, then the seeds will always be naked. That's why the name gymnosperm was given to them. Gymno means naked, sperm means seeds. These plants were having naked seeds, that means their seeds are not covered within fruit because they are not flowering. Fruit cannot be formed without flower. Okay. Now these gymnosperms, they are surviving for many years. That's why we call them perennial plants. Plant body of gymnosperm is differentiated into uh, uh, root, stem and leaves. Now in case of cycas, the cycas is one of the example of gymnosperm. There is symbiotic association in the root cells with the blue-green algae, and these type of roots, they are called coralloid roots. Coralloid roots are present in cycas which show association, symbiotic association with the nitrogen fixing algae in them. Even pinus, they also show association of endophytic fungi with the root, and that type of association is called mycorrhiza. Again, it is a type of symbiotic association. If we talk about the leaves of these gymnosperm plants, the leaves of these gymnosperm plants, they are dimorphic. That means there are two types of leaves seen in these plants. Foliage leaves which were needle-like, they were very sharp, and the scaly leaves which were very small and membranous brown in color. So that was the appearance morphology of the gymnosperm plants. The common examples are Pinus, Cycas and Devdar. Finally, we have reached to the last division of Pindum plantae, that is angiosperm. The word angiosperm comes from the covered seeds. These are the flowering plants. Within the flower we know fertilization occur. After fertilization, zygote is formed. This zygote will develop into seed. So the seed is always covered within the fruit. These plants, they have covered seeds. That's why we call them angiosperm. Angio means covered and sperms mean seed. Now these plants, they have specialized organ, flower development for reproduction. Angiosperms, they were further categorized into two classes, monocotyledon and dicotyledon. As the name is indicating, monocotyledon, the seed will only having the one cotyledon, single seed, leaf will be there which will provide the nourishment to the embryo, like example wheat, rice, maize, and dicotyledon which have two cotyledon in the seed which providing nourishment to the embryo, example mustard, gram and mango. Okay, so these were the 5 divisions in the kingdom plantae. So this is the structure of the flowering plant. The plant body is completely divided into all the systems. They have the root system, shoot system. The shoot system is showing your branches, leaves, nodes, internodes, flower, fruit. All these structures are present in the flowering plant. Now there are some interesting fact about angiosperm. The smallest angiosperm till now known was Wolffia, and the longest angiosperm till now known is Eucalyptus. So this diagram is showing you the complete developed flowering plant, completely developed angiosperm plant. Here I also want to mention that these angiosperms, they have well developed vascular tissues where xylem will consisting of tracheids, vessels, xylem fiber, xylem parenchyma. Phloem will be containing sieve tube, companion cells, phloem fiber and phloem parenchyma. Okay. This is the flow chart showing you the classification of plant kingdom that we have discussed right now. Plant kingdom is broadly categorized into two subkingdoms, cryptogames and phanerogames. Cryptogames, they are the non-flower, non-seed bearing plants which have the hidden reproduction, hidden fertilization process. This cryptogame subkingdom is further divided into three divisions: Thallophyta, Bryophyta, Pteridophyta. Then phanerogames were there, which are the seed bearing plants. These seed bearing plants, either the seed will be naked or it will be covered. If the seed is naked, we call them gymnosperm. If the seeds are covered within the fruit, we call them angiosperm. Angiosperms, they were further categorized into two classes, monocotyledon and dicotyledon. So this is the complete flow chart with characters. If you will draw this flow chart, if you will take the screenshot and prepare your notes, this is sufficient for your 9th standard for the explanation. Right? That's all for today. Today we have covered the half part of chapter number 7. We have discussed about the 5 kingdom classification and plant kingdom classification. In the next part we are going to discuss about animal kingdom. Thank you for today. Okay, bye.